everybody. I'm here with Kettlebell fitness superstar. If you haven't heard of him, you're going to know about him now. Pat Damiano. My man lights up Instagram. He is somebody that I've been following for a long period of time. And I'm going to let everybody know now that I want to go to him because I want to learn about kettlebells. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I love that.
Well, you know what? You can keep it. It was original. I'm happy to get you on, man. You've been doing great. I've been watching you on Instagram every day. I've been watching different protocols, different usages of the kettlebells. I know you do some mace clubs and things like that. But what I really wanted to talk about is why kettlebells? What's the takeaway
Mhm.
there?
So kettlebells have been so great for so many people, in for a bunch of different reasons. One of the biggest things, at least for me, that got them to kind of like light me up is it's just different. I've been in the fitness game for a really long time, and a lot of people have been working out for a really long time, and they're just getting a little burnt out of the whether it's traditional bodybuilding, maybe they're getting a little over CrossFit, and kettlebells allow them to kind of switch things up just a little bit and do something, learn something, but also do just different exercises and something that's just a little bit down a different path than they might be used to. That's one of
Absolutely.
the main ones. A lot of reasons that I think they're so great for people and why so many people on my online program see success with them is they allow people to work out at home very efficiently. Not everybody has a garage where they can put a squat rack and a bars and plates and stuff like that. A few kettlebells and your body weight is all you need in your living room, your basement, whatever it might be, to be able to get in solid workouts from home. There's a lot of people who either don't like going to the gym, just had their first kid and can't go to the gym. A lot of time restrictions are put on people's schedules and lives nowadays. So having a few kettlebells in your house is a cheat code, is what I say, for being able to get in some work. Even if it's just 20 minutes, it's amazing for people to be able to do that. And a lot of other pieces of equipment can't do that.
Right. I mean, it's so cost efficient, space efficient.
Mhm.
But what's interesting to me about kettlebells, and I've heard you say this, is that kettlebells engage multiple muscles and multiple movement patterns, whereas bodybuilding, lifting weights, is very isolated to one pattern and one group of muscles, which isn't
Mhm.
how the body works. I don't just use my biceps just to pick something up, or I just don't push. So it's more versatile, it's much more functional with less injury capacity.
Mhm.
So for your clients, how do you program this for them?
Yeah, so we do a lot of full body work. So I take kind of the traditional concept or the concepts from traditional lifting, where it's like maybe we're doing a push exercise, a pull, lower body core. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing a push exercise, whether it's a bench press or a push up or kettlebell press, you have similar muscles working. So while kettlebells aren't necessarily isolation, we still do have to follow those protocols of certain muscles are working. So I tend to take, and I'll switch things up a little bit here and there, but the overall blueprint is taking a push, a pull, a leg or a lower body and a core exercise and having that be like the main concept of the workout. And we switch up the format of it. Sometimes we'll do that in one big circuit of all four exercises, or we'll do two as a superset and then two as another superset. And then we end up maybe with a little extra time and we'll do some ski sprints or salt bike
Wow.
or finisher of like a farmer's carry, something like that. But the overall blueprint and theme of how I program workouts for myself and clients and online clients is taking the push, pull, legs, and core, and then that's the meat and potatoes, and then just kind of like throw some other stuff in the mix as well.
What's your favorite exercise? I mean, we all know kettlebells. I did HKC. I was going to do RKC.
Okay.
So maybe I should rephrase that and say this thing called the swing with this ball with a handle, right?
Hmm.
What is that all about?
Like the swing specifically.
Yeah, the swing. Why is it so popular? Why is kettlebells based on the swing?
I think it's kind of the foundation for all the other exercises, right? So cleans are awesome, but if you can't swing, you can't clean. Single arm swings are awesome, but if you can't swing, you can't do that. Same thing with snatches. And it's kind of the most unique exercise to a kettlebell, right? At the end of the day, you can do a dumbbell snatch, you can do a snatch with a barbell, you can do a kettlebell, or you could do a dumbbell clean, you could push press with a barbell, and you could do a lot of these exercises with other pieces of equipment, but there's nothing, and you can't mimic a swing with another piece of equipment. I don't know if you've ever tried to do a dumbbell swing. A lot of people have. It just doesn't work. You obviously can't do it with a barbell.
Yes.
It's just kind of like what I was saying before, or you were saying before, and I've said it before, where we're getting a little bit of everything going on, right? We're getting strength work in, we're getting balance work in, we're getting some muscular work in because there's tension throughout the entire body. You're getting power, you're getting a lot of different muscles working, our upper and lower body. Depending on how you do them, you can get some conditioning aspect in there. And it's just hitting a lot of things and it's filling a lot of cups at one time. And honestly, at least in my opinion, I know I've taught a lot of people how to swing, so it might be easier for me to say this. It's a pretty simple movement. So everything that we do with kettlebells starts there, and it's a simple exercise to learn, and it
Right.
just does so much.
I agree. I love the swing. For me, from a chiropractic perspective, the swing incorporates abdominal bracing, hip
Mhm.
and knee movement. It actually mimics the perfect way to bend your lower back in a hip hinge. Most people flex their lower back forward. I mean, you go to the regular gym, you see that rounding. Let me tell you something,
Mhm.
beeping red light, bad for you, good for me as a chiropractor. Try to avoid it. The swing allows the hip hinge. It's also quite dynamic. It also engages the posterior chain, your hamstrings, your glutes, your calves and such, which is critical element to overall strength. And lastly, what's interesting for me, it offsets a lot of the more traditional moves like cleans, snatches, and squats, in that there's more compression with those. The
Mhm.
swing does more of a shearing stress. So it evens out the compression and the movement forward. By the way, if you want to injure a disc, you want compression, flexion, and rotation, none of which you're going to get with the swing.
Like that. That's the fancy scientific way to explain why it's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean this swing is for me. It's such a basic move. I mean, I go on a cruise and I see people exercise, and I always know the guy who really knows how to exercise by taking the one kettlebell in the corner and do it, and just staying in the corner in two
Mhm.
feet and just working out for 20 minutes, like you said, and getting a full body workout. Pops his shirt off, and he's fit as heck looking. He doesn't look
Always.
like Arnold, but he looks like
Yep.
Brad Pitt in Troy.
Troy. Yep. There we go.
Right.
Exactly.
What's the easiest way for someone like me? Because, when you talk about the fitness journey, it should be everybody, but we realize it's kind of like 35 to 60-year-old and mostly men and women.
Mhm.
So, what's the easiest way to get on that journey?
If for somebody who's not doing anything,
Yeah,
you're
let's start
saying.
with somebody who
Yeah.
realizes
So
to the doc and the doc says exercise.
okay. Yeah, no, I love this question because this kind of just leads into my overarching theme of fitness, which is, and I'll always say this and I say it a bunch, is please just find something you like to do that's going to keep you active. And it does not matter what it is. So many people get caught up in wanting to look a certain way and it leads them into, I gotta go do lift weights and lift like Arnold to be a bodybuilder. Oh my God, this is so boring. I don't like this. I'm not going to do this anymore. When in reality is if you just found something you really enjoyed to do, whether it's body, it might be bodybuilding, or it might be kettlebells, it might be CrossFit, it could be a sport like swimming or jujitsu, or you get into boxing. Just find something that allows you to stay consistent and you like to do. Because what happens when you find that is then you want to progress at it, and progressing at it makes you do it more, and then so on and so forth. And then you end up one enjoying something, you go consistently, and you in most cases people end up looking the way that they want to look. People have this like vision in their head, and most of the times if you just do some sort of exercise really hard 4 times a week and eat right, you're going to end up being super happy with the way that you look. So finding something that you can consistently do and you enjoy, whatever it is, find it and do it.
Your journey's interesting
Mhm.
because your CV speaks about a 13-year journey. I think you were a college athlete, which you didn't put in there.
High school athlete, and I
Right.
didn't play in college.
And you've Olympic lifted, you've
Yes.
CrossFitted, your body built. It's clear. You can see your physique, but you've kind of landed in this fitness journey with kettlebells. So, who better than you to tell me the difference between functional strength and gym strength?
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, it's always that's always the debate is like, is functional strength the thing or something like that. And what I always tell people, somebody commented something really good on one of my posts once that got me to think about it. They said, do kettlebells, clubs, and maces make more useful muscles? And I made a post about it kind of saying, like, it's not that it makes the muscles more useful or it uses more useful muscles. It just gets your body moving in certain ways, right? So just by the nature of them, you could sit on a bench and just curl and press kettlebells all day long, right? But that's
Right.
not what happens when people get into kettlebells. You get into kettlebells and you start moving up and down, left, right. You get into clubs, you start to rotate a little bit more. You use different parts. And what ends up happening is you're not just isolating everything and you're starting to move your body in much different ways so that when you do go pick up a grandkid or a bag of dog food or you step off the curb weird and it kind of jerks you this motion, or you're playing softball and you swing as hard as you can, or you sprint or whatever it is, they just get your body moving in different ways so that when you do move in these unfound or like life movements or wherever life puts you, you know your body becomes a little bit more accustomed to moving that way, which tends to either one, allow you to do it better or not get hurt doing it if you're not always used to getting put in there. So that's how I define like functional strength or what these things do.
Great. So this really begs the conversation. The hot topic now, the insightful topic is longevity.
Yep.
So I'm going to go back and forth really with you really quick. Do
Mm-hmm.
kettlebells provide increased grip strength?
Oh, absolutely.
Great for longevity. Do they
Yep.
increase VO2 max?
They definitely can if they're used a specific way for sure.
Terrific. Do they increase the lung capacity?
Oh yeah. Nothing makes me breathe harder besides maybe some assault bike sprints, but that's just at the top.
Do they increase your body composition, or I should say your muscle to fat ratio, muscle being the backbone currency of longevity?
Mm, yes, 100%.
And they work in functional patterns, so therefore they're muscle centric, joint centric, functional movement centric. I think you and I are making a great case that kettlebells are longevity. Hey, maybe that's our next venture. You'll teach
I
it, I'll
like it.
talk about it. Kettlebells for longevity.
I love that. I really do think they are one of the best things for longevity for all those reasons that you laid out. And there's so much. One of the things too, like you were saying before, is there's no compression, right? Maybe when you do a clean with a kettlebell, it's not really sitting on you as much. It's kind of you're more so holding it. So there's no compression. They just make you feel good.
So let's talk about the idea now. Let's piggyback on what we just said. Let's talk about
Mhm.
the idea in kettlebell exercises as a movement screen, because we know every exercise is a test. So
Mhm.
therefore, every exercise with a kettlebell could be a functional test. How do you feel about a movement screen within kettlebell usage?
I think they can be good for that. So I don't necessarily dig too deep in like actually doing screens or movement screens, but one thing that they can be really good for, and it's why I recommend them to a lot of people, is kettlebells tend to lead to a lot of unilateral movement, right? So single arm presses, single arm rows, single arm squats, deadlifts, and so on and so forth. And that's where, as you know, that's where you really see when people have their imbalances, right? You might press a barbell overhead and it gets up there, right? But you can't really see the fact that the bar is actually pressed like this, and then maybe you get a kettlebell in your hand, and let's just say it's 40 pounds, and you could do 10 on your left side, and then you go to do your right side, and you can get 4, and it hurt. It's like, okay, something's not right there. So they can be really good in that aspect because they favor. There's so much unilateral work that comes with them, and that's where we tend to find out which side is doing better or worse.
How long is a normal kettlebell workout? So you're going to take me, a guy in his 50s who
Mhm.
works out, right? Who has movement problems, doesn't want to lose any strength. How long are you going to program the workout for me? No, no conditions. You're your standard 35 to 60-year-old guy who's coming to
Mhm.
you who wants to do better.
Yeah, I'm going to go around 40, 45 minutes. And even that sometimes, there are times I'm doing my workouts and I'll finish and it was like 35 minutes. You definitely can get a great workout in 20. But probably standard is like 40 to 45 minutes for the most part, which is not that long for most people. Most people are used to an hour 15 or something like that.
Well, because as your Instagram short or Instagram reel said, they're busy texting 4 minutes in between bench presses on Monday.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you got
Exactly.
it. Yeah, that is sinful. It's called intensity. So, which are your
Yeah.
favorite exercises and why?
So if with the kettlebell specifically, I always like a clean and press and a snatch. And I think that just those two are my favorite. They
Olympic
always get
lifting.
me going. Because yeah, from the Olympic lifts, that's what drew me to Olympic weightlifting was I was doing CrossFit clean and jerks and snatches were just my favorite part of CrossFit. So that led me into Olympic weightlifting. And I loved Olympic weightlifting. I still do love it. So I just always liked those two movements. They're just the perfect, whether you do them with a kettlebell, barbell, dump, whatever it is, they're just the perfect, in my opinion, display of just strength and power and athleticism. So they've always just appealed to me.
So you can still incorporate in your workout plans dumbbells, barbells, TRXs. I know you talked
Mhm.
about clubs. So kettlebells, you can work out on your own just using kettlebells, but they're even more synergistic in any kind of workout program, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. Now, where is the best source for kettlebell information other than you? What book can I read?
Yeah.
Um,
I haven't read his books, but I know Pavel Tatsuin, he's the godfather
yeah,
of
how'd you
kettlebells. He's
say
the
his
one that
last
made
name?
them. What'd you say?
I said, how'd you say his last name? I mean,
I didn't know how to. I just being in the game, being in the kettlebell game for long enough, you pick up on it. He's like, he's Babe Ruth, so everybody knows him. But yeah, he's great. He has really good information. His style of training is very effective. It is slightly boring for most people, so that's just something to be aware of. There's a lot of really good kettlebell trainers out there. Just on Instagram, this guy Eric does kettlebell, Adam Gooch, Tom DeJulie. There's a lot of good trainers out there. Lauren Kansky is another really good one. Hunter Krein. So great coaches out there. All have their different styles. Just like people have different styles of CrossFit and bodybuilding. There's subsects of the kettlebell world as well. But those would be my recommendations, kind of finding them on Instagram, TikTok, social media, and YouTube and stuff.
so I have a high school or a college athlete.
Mhm.
Would kettlebell training help them? And if so, why and how?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it would be a great addition to their training. If they're my assumption is when you say high school, college athlete, like I trained a lot of high schoolers, so my brain immediately goes like skinny 16-year-old boy. So it's like, okay, we still want to keep like we want to get him like bench pressing and deadlifting and squatting so he can put some meat on his bones. But the kettlebell stuff is going to be really good to just kind of teach them how to actually use their body, because that was one of the biggest things I noticed with those athletes is they're just a little goofy, right? And I don't mean
Right.
athletically goofy. They just don't know their elbow from their shoulder and how to like move everything together. And laying down on a bench press doesn't teach that. It has its benefits, but it doesn't teach you how to do that. When you pick up a 70-pound kettlebell in a goblet squat position and you go to squat it, like you learn how to use your body, because if your abs aren't fired up, you're falling over. If your back isn't, it's falling over. If your lats aren't engaged, the kettlebell is going to get really heavy. So it teaches you just to how to kind of start to make everything work together as one piece, I would say, which is super necessary for sports. When you go to tackle somebody or swing a baseball bat or whatever it is, it's not in isolation. Everything flows together and goes at the same time.
Outstanding. Now, women.
Mm-hmm.
Women seem to gravitate to kettlebells
Yeah.
because the environment's better. They get the idea of functional movement pattern, but we still
Mm-hmm.
have some women that look at anything with weight and afraid
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to get too muscular, too jacked,
Yes.
which is, I'm happy you're laughing because I walked down Central Park the other day in Central Park and I didn't see too many jacked women. Doesn't mean I didn't see women that were fit, but I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
women with 20-inch biceps. So
Right.
that's sad. Kettlebells for ladies.
Yeah.
Take that baton.
Yeah, I think they're great. I've said it before. I train, at least when it comes to in-person training, I train primarily women. I have a lot of women in my classes, and they use kettlebells a ton. Now, I've said it before, partially is because it's me and they have to, but they do enjoy them. Like you said, most women, some of them do, some of them really love it, but some of them don't love barbells, and they like the idea of a little bit more like a functional and combining strength and cardio in the same thing. And they tend to
Okay.
be a little bit more open-minded to learning different things. So they're like, hey, we're going to try this today. All right, cool. Sometimes, and again, I'm not going to say all the time, but sometimes guys are like, I just want to bench press and do curls, which, hey, I get it. That was a part of my life for a very long time, and it's still in there deep within me. So like that guy you were saying earlier, he just wants big biceps. So sometimes guys, they got men tend to get into working out a little bit earlier than women. They find it when they're 14 years old. It's always bodybuilding to start. So then that they do that and it works for them. So they stick with that forever. So they can be a little stubborn in that aspect and tend to have a little bit more goals that are oriented towards chest and biceps.
Outstanding. So, best way to get in shape for home or for people who are really busy. I mean, isn't
Mm-hmm.
that the number one excuse? I'm just too busy to work out. Got three
Yep.
kids, got to make breakfast, got a job, got life. What do you say? What do you got for them?
I'm obviously going to be biased towards kettlebells, but you know, if you have a, honestly 3 kettlebells in your body weight and like a 5 by 5 square foot of space in your house, like you can get it done. Push ups, swings, squats, lunges, sit ups. You can get a lot done in a short amount of time. If you don't want to do kettlebells, so I'll give some sort of option. If you can get your hands on a set of adjustable dumbbells and a bench, you could do a very similar concept to it. You don't need a lot of space. It's super versatile, and you know you could just put it in your living room. But the kettlebells are going to lean towards a little bit more of the conditioning aspect of things, which people tend to like. You know, if we're going to have 20 minutes to do a workout, we probably want to sweat a little bit and get the heart rate going. So they're going to lean towards that a little bit, but those are going to be your best options. And something I'll say in addition to that, no matter the setup that you have, is don't always think you have to bang it out in one shot. You know, I was talking to my sister about this because she's actually doing my beginner
Wow.
program right now. Is if you don't have 40 minutes or 30 minutes at a time, cool. Do 15 minutes of swings and push-ups. And then when your kid goes down for a nap and you have 15 more minutes, do some presses and rows, right? And that could be 3 or 4 hours later. That's totally fine. It's called
Wow.
greasing the groove. Get a little bit in throughout the day, try and accumulate as much time as you can throughout the day of working out instead of being like, oh, I need to get it all done in this 40, 45 minute block. Because a lot of people don't have that.
So you can split it up. You can do 15
Oh,
minutes,
yeah.
you can do 15 minutes and 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
And that's great. Now, I've watched you also. You also talk about nutrition and you talk about not just nutrition, but you talk about exercise programs. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
So nutrition wise, I'm pretty straightforward with the nutrition. I think part of it just comes from like when I first started this game, like for myself, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, there wasn't nearly as much information.
Mm,
Instagram and TikTok didn't exist, and YouTube was a baby. So I was like, I want to get in shape and get a 6 pack. So I'll just stop eating junk food. And it worked, you know.
yeah.
Now, granted, I was 15 years old. I probably had a solid metabolism going. I just started working out, and I'm a man. So like I just had all the things of metabolism flowing pretty well. But that has kind of stayed my overarching theme of nutrition is like, don't eat garbage food. Everybody knows what they're not supposed to eat. You know, if you want to lose 20 pounds, chicken fingers or grilled chicken, tell me which one. You know, it's everybody knows. So that's kind of my overarching theme is like trying to just kind of buckle down on that because at the end of the day, you probably know what you need to do. It's just doing it that is tricky for people. Now, the one thing I will say that I think is important for people to focus on and might be new for them to really dial in on is the protein intake. I think that is
Mm,
something that is probably new for a lot of people and something that,
right.
yes, people know they should be eating protein, but I don't think people realize how little they are actually eating. So that is something I think people, if you really want to make some physical changes, you should spend a week just kind of measuring how much protein you're intaking and realize that, oh, this is not nearly as much as I should be doing.
I agree with you. I mean, kettlebells are still weight resistance.
Mhm.
There are going to be some muscle tearing and muscle growth. So protein is the backbone of that. And I wholeheartedly agree with your statement that people do not eat enough protein and they pick poor choices of protein. We know
Mhm.
that animal protein, grass fed, of course, is critical. Better than pea protein. I am not anti-vegan. I'm not anti-plant-based, plant-forward. As a matter of fact, I am plant-forward. But again, I think you have to eat specific types of protein, and animal protein will be the best choice, higher on the amino acid scale. You'll
Mhm.
recover better, and then you'll be able to do those split workouts. And would you call it grooving?
Grease the groove, where it's
Grease
like you
the
just do a
groove.
little bit throughout the day. I stole that term from somebody, so I won't take credit for that, but yeah.
That it's okay. You said it now, so you got it. It's yours.
I like it.
So can I deadlift with kettlebells?
Yes. So that I love that. If you don't mind, I'll elaborate on that just a little bit more.
Please,
Because
please.
that that
That was a lead question.
because that leads into the most common thing that I get is that you can't build strength using kettlebells, right? And the answer to that is if you genuinely understand how the body works, the answer to that is obviously it's not true. You can gain strength using kettlebells. I'm a very good example of that. And there's a lot of other people that are great examples of that. The problem is And the issue with it is most people don't have access to heavy enough kettlebells to challenge them to then gain strength and muscle. If you're a 6'1", 200-pound guy who lifts fairly regularly, there's a really good chance you go to a gym and the heaviest kettlebell you have access to is 35 pounds. You're not going to gain muscle or strength using that. You can do some really good stuff with it, but gaining strength and gaining muscle is probably not going to happen. So what that then leads people to say is, you can't gain strength using kettlebells, when in reality, it's you just don't have access to heavy enough ones to do so. It's like if I walked into a gym and they had 30-pound dumbbells or up to 30-pound dumbbells, I wouldn't say that you can't gain strength or muscle using dumbbells. I would just say at this gym, I probably can't gain strength or muscle. There's a very few of them in the world, but they make a 356-pound kettlebell. It's ridiculous. There's like literally 7 of them in the world. But at the end of the day can you get strong lifting a 356-pound kettlebell? Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not the implement. Now, look, I understand. Obviously, barbells are way more convenient, and everybody has access to barbells and plates and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's not the specific shape of the weight. It's what you have access to and how you use it.
I think it was one of your reels that I saw where you're talking about the Olympic lifts, snatches and cleans. And you said you need a certain amount of weight to get the speed up to get that triple extension that's needed.
Yes.
So what weight am I going to need, me, to get that triple extension? And why is triple extension so important for the listeners?
Yeah. So triple extension is great. For anyone who might not know, triple extension is basically if you were to watch somebody do a max height jump in slow motion, right before their feet leave the ground, you'll see that their ankles are fully straightened out for the most part, their knees and their hips are. That's triple extension. Triple extension is the most amount of output you can, or power output you can give out there, which is super important for one, if you're just trying to be more explosive or more athletic, which is something that not enough people are doing, which is something people should be doing because it can help, one, just make them more athletic, but prevent injury and so on. So I think it's important for that reason. And there are a bunch of different ways you can get and create triple extension. You don't need something super heavy. If you want the maximum output of triple extension, you are going to need something fairly heavy. And in kettlebell's sake, that might be different depending on, are you using one hand or two hands? So that can kind of change a little bit.
Outstanding. So I'm going to give you a little case study. I need your help. I'm recruiting you. I have a very dear friend. He lives in Geneva. He's my age. He's bringing that weight down. He's a pretty good tennis player. He's going to the gym to rehab and improve his tennis performance. Tell him why he needs to use kettlebells and listen to Rob.
Awesome. So he needs to use them, one, because as much as people might not think that they are, once you learn how to use them, they are fairly simple. They're going to be very simple. They're going to allow you. So especially in a scenario like him, where he's trying to use it to supplement something else, kettlebells are not as taxing on the body. So they'll allow you to get in good strength, good mobility, good conditioning work, stack on some muscle, become a little bit more athletic, but do all of those things without detrimenting your ability to play tennis, right? If you could do a good 20, 25 minute, 30-minute kettlebell session, you're going to feel okay the next day to then go play tennis, because they lead more towards full body. So you're not crushing your legs for an hour and then trying to play tennis the next day. You're doing a little bit of everything. So you're allowed to hit all areas of your body, and then it's not going to be as taxing on the body. So you feel good going into the next day to play your sport or whatever it might be. And then on top of that, they'll just make him more athletic. When used a specific way, they're just going to make you more athletic and especially more mobile as well.
Outstanding. I know he'll be listening because I time marked it. So I'm going to piggyback on what you said. I'm going to try and make an argument. Why would we want to use kettlebells? Number one, they're great for rehab. They induce core activation. They allow your glutes and your posterior chain to work together. They're an all-in-one workout tool. That's all you need. You need one kettlebell. I don't have to go from machine to machine to machine. They're convenient, and I can do it in a small space. They burn calories faster than regular barbells and dumbbells. I think it's almost a 2-to-1 ratio when done as effectively as you do it, Pat. They also improve cardio to respiratory fitness. Again, they allow, and I love it, reduced overall training time. I don't have 2 hours for the gym. I have to make 2 hours for the gym. You're giving me a workout in 30 minutes to optimize and get outcomes according to like an hour to 2 hour workout. I'm in. I'm chiropractor. It's great for the back. I've heard you
Hmm.
say your back's going to ache a little bit because I'm strengthening and utilizing my lower back muscles appropriately. There's the
Hmm.
transference of kettlebell training to strength, power, and endurance. And lastly, studies have shown there's acute hormonal response to kettlebell swing exercise. Testosterone goes up, growth hormone goes up. So therefore, kettlebells and kettlebell swings should be used in everybody's exercise armamentarium.
Hmm.
So hopefully my buddy who's listening gives me a thumbs up between the two of us.
Yes. Yes. Double thumbs
Kettlebells.
up. I hope so.
Now, before we go, I want to know, how do you program for somebody? Because I get a lot of people say I'm a little concerned. All right, they want me to do an exercise, but does the trainer really understand me at 55? I don't recover as well as you at 30.
Hmm.
How do you
Right.
take that into consideration when you make a program for that individual?
Yeah, so a lot of that, so at least a couple different ways to go about it. One, if I'm working with somebody in person, it's a lot easier because there's the communication, right? We're talking throughout the whole hour. How was your week? What'd you do earlier? How you feeling today? And so on and so forth. So it's a lot easier to do that. If I'm not doing that, or if I'm not with somebody, and maybe it's somebody who's buying one of my programs or part of my membership or something like that, a lot of it is going to be it's a little bit on them, but a lot of it is going to be them learning and kind of educating them on the how to go about their workouts and like what is, for people who know this like RPE, right? So scale of rate of perceived exertion is basically saying that everything should be like a 7 or 8 out of 10 when you are starting out just to get a feel for everything. Now, one thing that actually is kind of good about kettlebells, if you are fairly new to them and you start a program, you're doing new exercises. So just like naturally, you don't beat yourself up right away because you're taking it slow and learning things and you can't go that heavy. So that has that like unintentionally built in. But it's just kind of learning and having people or teaching and having people learn how to potentially make some adjustments to their own workouts and make sure that they're being smart with the things that they're doing. And honestly, like I was saying before, what's great about kettlebells is they kind of do that for you. Like I like them so much because I like to train super hard. But at the end of the day, 100-pound kettlebell snatch is just as difficult as a 200-pound barbell snatch, but it's not nearly as much on my body. So like I still like to train hard, but my body doesn't want me to train hard every
Mm.
single day. Like my brain likes it, my body does. It's part of why I like to use them. I can do that with kettlebells and they just don't beat me up as much. So it's kind of built in, which is nice.
You really just tapped into something, and that was the thing. Someone in my age bracket wants to hear from somebody who's training me like you, that you understand that our bodies don't recover as quick. And I think that that's a great salient takeaway because that's a concern. Is he or she going to understand that I just don't recover? And believe me,
Hmm.
I'm speaking for myself now, but I'm also speaking for friends that complain to me. We know it. That's the
Hmm.
number one thing. And this really goes into an interesting horizon in that, you know, I would love to see some studies on kettlebells and mitochondrial function. I'm not going to
Hmm.
pin you on that because I think that one of the biggest problems as we age is mitochondrial dysfunction because our cells don't produce that ATP, that strength, and things of that nature. Something to put a pin in and table for the moment, but something for us maybe to come back on a part two and really talk about.
Yeah, I
Um,
would love to see the science on something like that because it's like one of those, I have no actual proof of it. I just feel that it is a thing where it's just, you can still train hard, which people like to do, and it's just not as much tension on the body.
Well, it's interesting. As we age, one of the things that we lose are fast twitch fibers, type 2
Hmm.
fibers. So I'm kind of really setting you up for kettlebell usage because there is a ballistic component
Yeah.
that allows us to hold on to those fibers.
Yeah. And a low impact, and I don't like the word safe because I don't like making it seem like other things are dangerous. So I'll say a low impact and safer way of doing about it, right? Because I mean, ballistics are quick exercises. It's usually things like jumping rope or running or sprinting or box jumps or whatever. A lot of people can't jump rope because they don't have the skill for it. They're terrified
Right.
of box jumps, or some sort of their body hates running or jumping consistently. Kettlebell swings allow us to get a little bit snappiness in there. It might not be the best, it might not be better than a box jump, but it's still going to allow your body to move quickly in a way that it might not be doing in any other exercise.
There are a lot of manual practitioners, neuro rehab oriented, that are using kettlebells in their practice because, so you said, if you raise a kettlebell with your right arm, you're cross talking with your left side of your brain, where, you can't do that really with a barbell. I guess technically you could do a side bend. Who does side bends anymore? Dumbbell will allow you, but you get much more mechanoreceptor stimulation when you hold on because of the cannonball with the handle, because of what you're doing in the thumb. It's fascinating. I know you're smiling. I mean, I must be, stimulating those neurons, and you're like, dude, you know what? Save that and share it. But what do you say to somebody who is still afraid of weights? Let's close with that.
Yeah.
They're afraid of weights. They're afraid they're going to get hurt. They're too old. They get too big too quick. They're going to grow out of their suit or whatever.
I'll start with the person who's afraid of getting too big too quick. And this is kind of you touched on it before, like sometimes when women are afraid to like lift weights. I can't take credit for this, but somebody explained it perfectly. They said, I know guys that have been trying to gain more muscle for years, and they still are struggling to it. So you're not going to accidentally gain too much muscle. It's especially with men just naturally have more testosterone, like I know so many guys like that. I heard somebody explain it that way. It's like, that's my argument for the rest of time for this is I know guys trying to gain more muscle and they're struggling with it. So you're not going to accidentally gain more muscle when you have way less testosterone to begin with as a female. So that's my argument towards that. But in terms of just lifting weights in general, the best thing I say, you need it. It is, as I'm sure you know, in your line of work, it is the fountain of youth, right? I say that a lot, and lifting weights is what improves your quality of life. And I mean, the ability to just do something, right? And do things, whether it's stand up, sit down, go up the stairs, carry your groceries, pick up your grandkid, push your grandkid in a stroller, push a shopping cart, whatever it is, that comes from muscle. And if you're not lifting weights, and it doesn't need to be crazy, if you're someone who's brand new and not sure what to do or older, a couple times a week for 30 minutes is more than enough for you to get some quality of life benefits from it. And it's something you need to do because, it's not only going to be good for the muscles, but it's going to be good for your bones. And as you get older, those are the things that tend to go. And when those go, the quality of life absolutely plummets. So just a little bit of weightlifting will go a long way just to keep you, not only it's not about staying alive, it's about quality of life, in my opinion.
You just gave the answer to longevity. It's health span, it's vitality, and something that we don't talk about enough, enjoying your life. I mean,
Yeah.
before you're worried about it, I'm a little neurotic about health span and lifespan and vitality, but you got to have fun along the way. This has been great. I think we've covered several levels of this. Obviously, we're both proponents believing that kettlebells are good. I like the rehab side, you like the performance side. We got to do part two. It's been my pleasure. Love it. The man who knows kettlebells and fitness as well as anybody, Pat Damiano.
Thank you.